The Attorney General of the United States basically refused to answer substantive questions from Democratic senators at an oversight hearing yesterday, her first. Instead, she responded to senators with these personal attacks, insults that had clearly been prepared for her in advance. In some cases, she was kind of reading, that were pasted in a folder she had with her like a burn book to help remember who to insult and how. Just the kind of behavior you would expect from the Attorney General of the U.S., right? Well, Senator Adam Schiff was keeping track of the many questions that she dodged.
You were asked who or what role you may have played or who played the role in asking that Trump's name be flagged in any of the Epstein documents gathered by the FBI. You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did career prosecutors find insufficient evidence to charge James Comey? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, how are military strikes on these boats in the Caribbean legal? And you refused to even answer that question.
Tonight, Senator Schiff and Tim Kaine forced to vote on one of those questions. It was a war powers resolution aimed at stopping Donald Trump from having the U.S. military blow up more boats off the coast of Venezuela in unauthorized strikes that sure look like extrajudicial killings. That resolution failed earlier this hour along party lines, 48 to 51. But I doubt this is the last we will hear about this issue. Senator Adam Schiff is a Democrat of California. He serves on the Judiciary Committee that held yesterday's hearing, and he joins me now. Senator, let me start on that issue to begin with. Have you or members of Congress, either in classified settings or in open settings or in any communication, been provided with any concrete evidence about who exactly the U.S. military has killed? And any real justification for the legal rationale other than a very, very sparse war powers memo that was sent over?
Well, first of all, on the vote, it was actually bipartisan. We did have 2 Republican members vote with us in support of the war powers resolution, but nevertheless, it failed by a narrow margin. In terms of what the administration has shared, certainly the senators at large have not been briefed. And you would think if we were engaged in military hostilities, as we are, against these ships in the Caribbean, that there would be an all-hands briefing explaining exactly why we're taking these extraordinary and lethal measures. That hasn't happened. There have been briefings, classified briefings to the Intel Committee and the Armed Services Committee, as I understand it. But what I'm hearing from people who attended those briefings is they were lacking in any of the kind of detail you would expect, both in terms of what we know about those ships and who was on them, but also in terms of the legal rationale. And the most I can make of the legal rationale by the administration is the president has put a bunch of groups on a list, and he believes he has the authority to blow up anybody on that list without Congress's authorization. That is completely inconsistent with the Constitution, and it has no limiting principle. If a president in secret can put names on a list and kill them, then there is no war power still retained by Congress, and there's no check on an executive who may drag us into another war.
I mean, to that point, the contention of the administration is that they've called Tren de Aragua a narco-terrorist, that elevates them, and that we're in armed conflict with them. Today, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, who refused to answer so many of those questions, in a White House meeting about Antifa, said essentially, we are going to treat Antifa the way we're treating the cartels. Now, one of those cartels they have said is a narco-terrorist that they have the inherent constitutional authority to order strikes on. And I gotta say, that moment, caught my attention, given the level of violence they are directing at those cartels.
It should catch all of our attention, because if you look at where this started, it started with blowing up ships. You then have the president say, well, we may go to land targets now in Venezuela or elsewhere. And with statements like the Attorney General, now you begin to wonder, do they believe that they have the authority by putting some groups on a list, even domestic groups, to use lethal force against them with no trial, no due process, no nothing? And, the reality is we can't rule that out. We can't rule that out. I mean, given the abuse, the misuse of the military in American cities, the president telling the assembled generals and admirals that we have an enemy within, it's a military training grounds in American cities as far as he's concerned, you cannot exclude the possibility that the next stage of this is to go after groups closer to home or even here at home.
Today, James Comey was arraigned in federal court, and we've also learned today in reporting for the Wall Street Journal that the message that Donald Trump posted to social media directing Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, directly to move forward with prosecution of James Comey was in fact meant to be a private DM. It was a private message. They didn't know how it got public. It got public. You were included in the list of people that he has explicitly directed the sitting attorney general to prosecute. What is your reaction to having James Comey arraigned and to learning that, in fact, the president was sending a private message to the attorney general with that intent?
Well, it makes it even more sinister. The vindictive nature of this prosecution, this enemies list, even more apparent that the president is communicating in secret, or he's attempting to communicate in secret. You need to move against these people, and you need to do it now. And what's more, the president gives his reason, which is they impeached me, they did this to me. You couldn't have, I think, a clearer explanation of a vindictive prosecution than what he has just explained and what he thought was private but has become very public. In terms of the arraignment of James Comey, this follows, as you know, the firing of the U.S. attorney who refused to move forward, the firing of career prosecutors who thought this case lacked evidence, the replacement of the U.S. attorney by an insurance lawyer who's also a personal lawyer for the president. This whole process stinks of vindictive prosecution. This case, from all we can see, should never have been brought. And this is merely the president, to a degree we've never seen, abusing the awesome power of the Justice Department to try to jail his opponents. And the list, yeah, I'm an early entrant onto that list of enemies, but the list keeps growing just within the last 24 to 48 hours. Yeah. 3 new people on the list.
Yeah, including the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois, Senator Adam Schiff. Thanks for your time tonight.